Kai Madison Trump was standing on the green at the prestigious Shinnecock Hills Golf Club in Southampton, New York, adjusting her cap and looking at the horizon. The wind was cool but not strong, just the perfect kind of breeze for a competitive game. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. This wasn't just another match, this was the match. The one where everything had to fall into place. As the eldest daughter of Donald Trump Jr. and Vanessa Hayden, Kai had grown up in the public eye, surrounded by expectations, success, and the Trump name. But she had carved her own path through it all. She was known for her remarkable golfing skills, a sharp focus on excellence, and a relentless drive to prove that she wasn't just a name. She had worked hard, and at just 22, she had achieved what most only dreamed of, being a top-tier golfer with a series of national accolades. But today was different. Today, she had invited someone very special to watch her play. Her grandfather, President Donald Trump. She could already feel the anticipation in her chest, the flutter of excitement that came with such a simple yet significant gesture. Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States, had never really been into golf as a competitive sport, preferring his own luxurious courses or leisurely rounds with friends. Yet, he was more than willing to watch his granddaughter play, something that made Kai proud. "Grandpa, I want you there," she had said during a phone call just a week earlier. "You've supported me through everything, and it would mean the world if you could watch me play in person. I want you to see the result of all the lessons you've given me about perseverance." Her words had been direct, yet heartfelt. She could almost hear the grin on her grandfather's face as he responded. "Kai, I've never missed anything you've done, and I'm not about to start now. I'll be there with bells on." So there he was, Donald Trump, sitting in the VIP section of the golf course, watching his granddaughter from a distance. He was dressed in his signature suit, not exactly the attire of a seasoned golfer, but no one would expect him to blend in. He didn't need to. His presence alone was enough to turn heads. Kai had hoped he would come as a proud grandfather, not as the president, but she couldn't ignore the impact of his presence. As always, his charisma and influence reached far beyond the bounds of any golf course. From her vantage point, Kai caught sight of him. Donald Trump sat in the front row, his eyes locked on the action. The smile on his face was unmistakable. It was that smile, the one that only a grandfather could give, full of pride and admiration for the granddaughter who had exceeded every expectation. It was a surreal moment for Kai. As the first grandchild of the sitting president of the United States, she had often found herself in strange, larger-than-life situations. But today, as she prepared for her most important match yet, she couldn't help but feel humbled. For her, this wasn't about media attention or legacy, it was about showing her family, especially her grandfather, that she had what it took to excel in her own right. With the crowd murmuring behind her, Kai stepped up to the tee. The moment was now. The sound of the club striking the ball echoed through the air as it soared toward the first hole. Donald Trump watched intently, his expression serious, then nodded approvingly. This wasn't about politics. It was about family, about Kai, about the remarkable young woman she had become. Kai's confidence surged as she approached the next hole. The crowd's attention had shifted between her and the president. It was clear they were waiting for something extraordinary. Kai had trained for this moment for years, but the presence of her grandfather gave it a personal meaning she hadn't expected. The sun shone brightly over the Shinnecock Hills Golf Club, casting long shadows over the meticulously manicured greens. Kai stood tall, her gaze steady as she lined up her next shot. The crowd murmured in hushed tones, captivated by the young woman who seemed to have it all: grace, poise, and an undeniable talent that was beginning to make waves in the world of golf. But today, it wasn't just about winning for Kai. It was about something deeper. It was about showing her family, particularly her grandfather, that her success was hers to claim, no one else's. As she moved toward the next hole, her thoughts drifted back to the moment she had called her grandfather to invite him. She remembered how nervous she'd been at first, unsure of how he would react. After all, he was the President of the United States. His schedule was filled with the weight of the world's problems, and golf was often a fleeting afterthought. But there was something about her grandfather's connection to her that always seemed to shine through, no matter how busy or important things got. "I'll be there, Kai. I wouldn't miss it for the world. You've got this," he had said, his voice warm and reassuring. Now, as she looked out across the course, she could see him sitting there in the VIP section, his presence larger than life. The cameras were flashing, capturing every moment, but Kai didn't feel pressure. Not today. She felt grounded, centered in a way she hadn't expected. Having her grandfather there wasn't about the spectacle, it was about him being a steady presence in her life, someone who had always encouraged her to pursue her dreams even if those dreams took her to a different path than his own. The first few holes passed with a mix of triumphs and challenges, but Kai remained focused. She was playing the best game of her life, each swing more deliberate than the last. Her caddy, a seasoned professional who had worked with some of the biggest names in golf, offered encouraging words, but Kai barely needed them. She knew what she had to do. It wasn't about her opponent, not really. It was about pushing herself to reach the next level of mastery. To prove that she wasn't just a member of the Trump family, she was Kai Trump, and she was going to make a name for herself in the sport she loved. As the game progressed, Kai's grandfather never took his eyes off the course. He watched her every move, every shot. It wasn't just his duty as a grandfather to cheer her on, it was his role as someone who had witnessed the ups and downs of life in the public eye. Donald Trump had always been a polarizing figure, but with his family, he was a man of loyalty, love, and pride. Seeing his granddaughter shine on the golf course made him forget about the pressures of politics, if only for a moment. "I've been around the best in the world," he told a reporter who had approached him during the match. "But I've never seen someone like Kai. She's got the heart, the skill, and the drive. This young woman is going places." Those words from the president resonated across the course. People had always seen Kai as more than just a legacy. She was a living testament to the strength of her family, but also to her own hard work and determination. It wasn't easy being the grandchild of a sitting president, nor was it simple trying to make her way in a world dominated by older, more experienced players. But today, Kai was proving that she was ready for the spotlight, that she didn't need to be in the shadow of her family's name to succeed. By the time they reached the 8th hole, the tension in the air had thickened. Kai was in the lead, but only by a small margin. The crowd, which had initially been scattered across the course, now gathered around the green, sensing that something big was about to happen. The president, sitting just behind the ropes, was on the edge of his seat. Kai was poised, calm, and focused. She glanced briefly toward her grandfather, and for just a split second, their eyes met. In that fleeting moment, she felt a connection, a bond that transcended golf, politics, and everything else. It was the look of a proud grandfather, and in her heart, she knew that was all that mattered. With the final hole approaching, Kai's heart pounded in her chest. This was the moment she had worked for, the culmination of years of practice, sacrifices, and challenges. The wind had picked up again, but she barely noticed. The crowd was silent as she approached the tee. The cameras clicked, but she didn't hear them. All that mattered was the ball, the hole, and the perfect shot that would seal her victory. Kai's hands were steady as she approached the final hole. The crowd that had gathered around the green now held its collective breath, waiting for her to make the final move. The score was close, and her opponent was not backing down. It had been an intense game, one that tested her skills, her nerves, and her ability to stay calm under pressure. But this was her moment. She could feel it. Her grandfather, Donald Trump, had remained silent for the past few holes. He sat in the VIP section, his face a mask of concentration, eyes locked on his granddaughter. Every so often, the cameras would catch him in a candid moment, a slight smile curling at the corners of his lips. But in his heart, he was more than just a proud grandfather, he was a man who understood what it took to be great. He had seen the best in business, politics, and the media. But today, watching Kai on the golf course, he knew this was something different. This was the future, and it was unfolding right before his eyes. Kai stood at the tee, the final hole just a few yards ahead. The wind was stronger now, but she didn't mind. It was nothing she hadn't faced before. The course stretched out before her like an endless sea of green, the flag swaying in the distance, taunting her to take that final step. Her opponent, a seasoned player who had been a formidable challenge all day, was watching closely. There was a palpable tension in the air, but for Kai, it was as if the world had gone silent. Everything faded into the background, the cheers, the cameras, the expectations. There was only her and the ball. "Focus," she whispered to herself. "One shot. One perfect shot." She glanced at her grandfather once more, and in that fleeting second, she saw it again, the look of pride. It wasn't just about the game. It was about who she had become. This match was about more than victory, it was about proving to herself that she could achieve greatness on her own terms. With a smooth swing, Kai launched the ball into the air. Time seemed to slow as it soared toward the hole. It was a flawless shot, one that traveled effortlessly through the air, arcing with precision. For a moment, it seemed like everything hung in the balance, as if the world itself had paused to watch her succeed. The ball landed with a soft thud, rolling slowly toward the hole. The crowd's breath caught in unison. Kai's heart raced. She could feel the adrenaline pumping through her veins. This was the culmination of all her hard work, and in that moment, it felt like everything she had done had led up to this. The ball rolled closer, inch by inch. And then, in a perfect, almost cinematic moment, it dropped into the hole. The crowd erupted into applause, a wave of cheers that echoed across the course. Kai's body was flooded with relief and euphoria. She had done it. She had won. But it wasn't just the victory that mattered. It was the journey, the lessons learned, and the support of those who had always believed in her. Kai turned to look at her grandfather, her heart swelling with emotion. Donald Trump stood up from his seat, his face breaking into a wide grin. He wasn't just clapping for her victory. He was celebrating her perseverance, her strength, and the woman she had become. "Congratulations, kiddo!" he shouted over the roar of the crowd, his voice booming through the air. Kai smiled, feeling a surge of warmth in her chest. She had done it. She had made her family proud. But more than that, she had made herself proud. As she made her way toward the green, her opponent shook her hand, a gesture of respect. The other players, the officials, and the audience all gathered around her. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment for posterity. Kai didn't care about the fame or the headlines. She had just achieved something bigger than a victory. She had proven that she could rise to the occasion, even when the pressure was overwhelming. Donald Trump made his way down to the green to meet her. His stride was purposeful and his presence filled the space around him. When he reached her, he enveloped her in a hug, lifting her off the ground for a brief moment. "You did it, Kai," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've made the Trump name proud, but more than that, you've made yourself proud. And that's what really matters." Kai smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "Thank you, Grandpa. This wouldn't have been possible without your support. You've always believed in me even when I doubted myself." He chuckled softly. "Believing in you was the easiest thing I've ever done." The moment felt like it could last forever. Kai stood there, surrounded by the people who mattered most to her, her grandfather, her family, and her supporters. She had done it, and this victory was a testament to the power of hard work, determination, and unwavering belief in oneself. As the evening wore on, something unexpected began to unfold. Kai found herself surrounded by a group of young golfers, some still in their teens, others in their early 20s. They had gathered around her, eager to speak with the woman who had just made history in the world of golf. But it wasn't just about her skill on the course, it was about something deeper. They were inspired by her, not just as a golfer, but as a young woman who had carved her own path, despite the pressures of being part of the Trump family. "You've inspired us, Kai," one of the young women said, her eyes wide with admiration. "I've always felt like there was a limit to what I could do because of who I am, but watching you today, I feel like I can push past that. Like anything is possible." Kai felt a lump form in her throat as she heard the sincerity in the young woman's voice. She had never considered herself to be a role model before, but in this moment she realized how much her actions were affecting others. The weight of that responsibility was both humbling and inspiring. "I didn't get here because I'm a Trump," Kai replied, her voice steady but full of emotion. "I got here because I've worked every day to be the best golfer I can be. It hasn't been easy and I've faced my own doubts. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that we can all push past the limits we think we have. You have to believe in yourself, even when no one else does." The group of young golfers nodded, their eyes filled with newfound determination. Kai could see it in their faces, the same fire she had felt when she first picked up a golf club all those years ago. This was more than just a victory for her. It was a victory for everyone who had ever felt like they didn't belong, like they weren't enough. And in that moment, Kai knew that her journey had only just begun. Later that night, as the dinner wound down, Donald Trump pulled her aside. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice low, "about what you said to those young golfers. You have something here, Kai. A power to change things, not just in sports, but in people's lives. I think you could use your platform for more than just golf. There's a whole world out there waiting for you to lead." Kai felt a surge of energy at his words. For the first time, she could see beyond her career on the green. She could feel the potential of using her influence for something bigger, something that could inspire others, especially young women, to pursue their dreams regardless of the obstacles in their way. "Maybe you're right," she said, her voice thoughtful. "Maybe it's time for me to do more." As the night came to a close and the guests began to leave, Kai stood at the door, her heart full. She had won the match, yes, but more importantly, she had won something far greater, a sense of purpose. It was no longer just about being the best golfer in the world. It was about showing others that they, too, could defy the odds and achieve greatness. The weeks following the victory were a blur of interviews, media appearances, and celebrations. Kai's name had become synonymous with determination, success, and resilience. Everywhere she went, people wanted to hear about her journey, how she had risen to the occasion and made her mark in the world of competitive golf. The press coverage was relentless, and while it was overwhelming at times, Kai remained focused on her purpose. She continued to play, refining her game and taking on new challenges. But alongside her golfing career, something new began to stir within her. The recognition she had received wasn't just about being the granddaughter of Donald Trump or the daughter of Donald Trump Jr., it was about her own journey, her ability to break barriers, and her desire to inspire those who had always felt they didn't have a place in the world of sports. One afternoon, as she was practicing on the range, her phone buzzed. It was a text message from her grandfather, Donald Trump. "I'm proud of you, Kai. The world is watching, but now it's time for you to show them what true leadership is about. You have the chance to inspire millions. Don't waste it." Kai stood there, staring at the message, the weight of his words sinking in. Leadership. It was a term she had heard many times before, often associated with those in positions of power. But now, for the first time, she truly understood what it meant. Leadership wasn't about titles or positions. It was about influence, the ability to change lives, and the courage to stand up for what you believe in. Later that day, she met with her publicist, who had been managing her increasing media requests. "Kai," she began, "there's been a lot of talk about you using your platform to speak out on issues that matter to you. Have you given any thought to what you want to focus on?" Kai had been mulling it over for weeks. At first, she had dismissed the idea. She was a golfer, after all, not an activist. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that she had a unique opportunity. She could use her voice to advocate for causes she believed in, especially for young women who often felt overlooked in sports and other fields. She could create a legacy that went beyond the golf course. "I've been thinking about it," Kai replied, her voice firm with conviction. "I want to focus on empowering young girls to pursue their dreams, no matter the obstacles. And I want to raise awareness about the lack of representation for women in sports. It's time for us to be seen and heard." Her publicist smiled, sensing Kai's newfound determination. "That's powerful, Kai. You've already inspired so many. Imagine what you can do when you start speaking up." And so, with the backing of her family and a growing network of supporters, Kai began to use her platform for change. She launched a campaign called Breaking Barriers, focused on encouraging young girls to pursue sports and leadership roles. The campaign included mentorship programs, scholarships for young athletes, and partnerships with organizations that supported girls' education and empowerment. Her message was simple: you belong. You matter. You can achieve anything you set your mind to. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from young girls around the country, many of whom had never considered sports as a viable path for themselves before seeing Kai's success. Parents, coaches, and teachers expressed their gratitude for the work she was doing, and organizations offered their support. Kai's initiative began to grow, touching lives in ways she hadn't anticipated. The impact was real, and it filled her with a sense of fulfillment that she had never experienced on the course. One evening, as Kai stood on the balcony of her home, looking out over the city, she reflected on how far she had come. She thought about the girl who had once been unsure of her place in the world of golf, the girl who had struggled with self-doubt and the pressure of her family name. That girl had grown into someone strong, someone who had learned to trust her own voice and her own abilities. And now, she was using that strength to help others find theirs. Her grandfather, Donald Trump, had been right. Leadership wasn't about titles or recognition. It was about making a difference, about inspiring others to believe in themselves and take action. Kai had found her purpose, and it wasn't confined to the golf course. It was about leading by example, breaking down barriers, and showing the world that anything was possible. The phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from her mother, Vanessa. "I'm so proud of you, Kai. You've always been strong, but now you're showing the world what true strength really is. Keep going." Kai smiled, her heart swelling with pride. Her journey was far from over, and she knew there would be challenges ahead. But she was ready. With the love and support of her family, her community, and the millions who believed in her, she knew there was no limit to what she could achieve. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Kai stood tall. She had achieved her dream of becoming a great golfer, but now she had a new mission: to inspire a generation of young girls to break free from the confines of expectations and show the world what they were truly capable of. And so her story continued, not just as a golfer, but as a beacon of hope and inspiration for those who believed that greatness wasn't defined by where you came from, but by where you were going.